seeing the resolution pass, I had a guy tell me that he hasn't felt so much political inspiration since the 60s. And like the stickers, they serve as sort of a visual sign of equality. And it just kind of, it ignited our spirits in a way. And I think that that's imperative, really, that everybody gets this passionate about it and does something about it, because that's how we achieve full equality in the long run.
Joe, you've talked a little bit about how you were planning on leaving the state as a young person. Do you think one of the positive impacts would be that people would want to be here?
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully my two sons will too. And so I don't, you know, I mean, that was one of the reasons, two of the biggest reasons that I do this is my two boys, 10 and 11-year-old boys that my partner and I adopted. And you kind of look at them and you see your kids, but you see all these other kids in them. And really, you know, the hardest part of that movie was Ryan. I mean, that was just devastating. And if you can take that part, I mean, the world is hard enough as it is, just without having to deal with who you are being in a negative light. So if these do anything to change that in the aspect of, like when we talked, passing an ordinance has huge ramifications all the way down the line, from bullying on up. And it really does change the mindset of the town and people. I mean, even like one of the things when I was going around was like, to businesses, I was like, you don't have to I'm not asking you to hang a rainbow flag in front of your business. I'm just saying, you know, you should support treating everybody equally. And, you know, and one of the things that I was telling them was my own story of leaving because I didn't want to stay there. And, you know, if this does anything, hopefully it makes younger people's lives growing up there better.
It takes a lot of work to pull one of these things out in your town. And
stress.
And
Xanax.
Stress.
Lots of Xanax.
And there are meetings that happen, you know, after work hours, and you have to go show up at people's doors and ask them to put stickers on them. And I mean, we've got a lot of different towns and cities that have initiated their own campaigns, and Fairness goes and establishes like a kickoff where they show a film to get people all on the same page and educated. But what is it? You guys are all-star community captains, is what we call you. What does it take to, like, you know, want to get involved at the level that you are involved at? Like, really leading it. You know, Fairness can't come in as an organization and say, you, city council of whatever town, pass this. But because you live there, because you are a constituent, you're a stakeholder, like, what does it take for you inside to do that?
I'll start. I guess to answer it in a simple way, it takes compassion for your community and a desire to see a better atmosphere and a better, just a better all world to live in. I think, you know, it's kind of a hokey answer, but I mean, I think that's basically what it boils down to. And I think part of it is that, you know, having a little bit of clout somehow with the other council members or the other members of the community to a point where they respect your opinion and they care about it. And so that definitely helps. But I guess, you know, to reiterate what I said earlier and what that lady said about, you know, it's inconvenient. It is inconvenient, you know, but a lot of things are inconvenient, you know, and it's no excuse to not do something. It's just, I think you have to bring it to the forefront. You have to bring it to like I said, the conversation has to be had. And, you know, before I talked with Andrew about this, I wasn't even aware that the laws in West Virginia are the way that they are.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think it's people like Andrew being Andrew was, he would call me once a week, and say, has the council passed it yet? And I said, well, I'm still working on it. And, and it takes a little bit of drive and commitment to want to see something like that happen. And Andrew kind of gave me the bug, I guess, a little bit. And so I'm trying to do that with my friends and my community, fellow community members and colleagues at the law school. And I think it just takes just some kind of little switch to be flipped, I guess, for me at least.
Well, I'm with Ty on that. I knew very little about these laws until I learned from Andrew. And if we're being completely honest, I kind of got involved at the level that I did on accident. I was not expecting it to entail all that it did. I thought that it would be very easy, but then once I got involved, I realized, I read stuff online about other cities that have tried, and even just, I don't know, like stories like, what was the guy's name in the movie that died? Ryan. Stories like Ryan's, stuff like that. It almost takes tragedy sort of like that to, I mean, that's just absolutely heartbreaking, but it happens because there is not legislation like this in place, because it's acceptable to discriminate against someone and deem them a lesser human being, and that angers me. So a lot of this came out of anger, and a lot of it came out of love for my fellow human, and a lot of it came out of just, I really care about Elkins. I'm actually technically not an Elkins resident. I live in a small town about 20 minutes from Elkins, but I grew up in Elkins, and yeah, don't tell the council that. But I love Elkins, and I want to see the people of Elkins, all of the people of Elkins, feel as if they belong there and as if they will be accepted there for who they are, and that's kind of what it took for me.
Yeah, for me, I kind of alluded to it earlier with my kids, and there's a line in the movie where I can't remember who was talking, but when they said they wanted to be able to look at people and say they were on the right side of history, and that's a big part of it for me, is to be able to, especially when you have, or even if you don't have children, or just community members or whatever, and for you to be able to say that, I did this small thing to make sure that this freedom keeps going, and that's kind of part of it for me.
We have time for about one more question, if anybody's got a burning question from the audience right here.
Yeah, I just wanted a little update about, if any of you all know, around the country, how many states still lack this language in their anti-discrimination?
I think I have this in here. Well, I have information for every state. I have information for every state, and this was as of March, so it's probably a little different by now. But let me see I don't know if I have one for the entire country, but like, for example, 0% of people living in Alabama are covered by local ordinances, and it's also not a state thing either. Same for Alaska. Delaware does have a state level non-discrimination law. Yeah, I won't read through all of these.
I think there's 30 or 31.
Is it
I think it's around 30 right now,
Yeah.
that lack protection. There's two kind of levels of protection. There is a law that passed, including all 4 words, so adding all the words like sexual orientation, gender identity. But then there are also states that only pass sexual orientation. And there's now been in the past year like a very organized effort to never leave the T behind, to always include transgender protections when you are passing it.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I just wanted to say that. Sorry. One thing that fairness and all of us did years when it started was make a commitment that if we didn't take the T with us, then the LGBT wasn't going to go either. So, and we've actually stood up in front of council members and said, if they bring language without the transgender community, that we will ourselves shut it down. So that's.
Yeah.
And what about age discrimination? I was surprised that that was getting rolled into this.
Yeah, it was, I think it was a blind spot as far as the opposition that was backing that legislation. They didn't realize
Right.
that age had been included, but Senator Jeff Kessler has introduced ENDA, which is the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, which is adding the 4 words basically. Every year since 2008 or 9, and he also includes age in his presentation of that bill. So that's covered in what he proposes, but it goes nowhere. And even when the Democrats were in power at the Capitol, they would say nothing's going to happen this year. Sorry, guys.
And they wanted us to drop transgender off.
Yeah, another strategy was to drop the T, drop gender identity, to make it more palatable, so that senators and delegates could go home and talk about why they voted for the bill. But that was, not acceptable to
Yeah, 'cause
fairness and the rest of the LGBT.
Maryland is one of the states that has gay rights, but not
yeah.
transgender
So
rights.
Maryland is
And it's almost completely impossible for them to get it back added.
Yeah, there was like I'm not sure where the strategy originated, thinking to drop the T and push forward and then go back for the T later. But a couple states went through with that, and they're having even
New York.
harder time passing transgender protections. So they have gay rights now, but it is really a blemish on their state.
I think it's worth adding to that. Just this summer, the EEOC promulgated a rule, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission promulgated a rule that I believe it was sexual orientation, just sexual orientation.
Yeah, transgender's not part of it.
Yeah, so that means that basically government jobs, any